A gunman walks up to a home and just starts firing multiple times. It's disturbing footage of a brazen shooting in York region we've been telling you about throughout the show. And police say this is just one of 9 in the last 4 months that have targeted residences and commercial buildings in the region. I'm Faiza Amin. I'm joined now by U of T Assistant Professor Jooyoung Lee. You're a gun violence expert. Now, we heard York Region Police seeing if there's a link in these shootings, but they're not saying whether or not they're gang related. What's your take on this?
I mean, it's very hard to determine if they are gang related or not. What we can kind of infer from the video is that this isn't necessarily like a random shooting. This looks like it's something that comes from a problematic history where there's some kind of conflict between either the shooter or somebody that the shooter is affiliated with and somebody in the home. These kinds of shootings often end up injuring or killing innocent bystanders, people who are not even connected to the conflict that precipitates the shooting. And so I think that that's usually one of the biggest and toughest things for the public to grapple with. If it is gang related, then there might be a larger conversation we should have about what are nonviolent ways that the city, law enforcement, community members can get together and intermediate these conflicts before they lead to things like shootings.
Could we say that there perhaps is a message with these shootings?
The message that I see as a researcher is that we need to do a better job of preventing shootings before they happen in the first place.
Where does this violence go if it's left unconfronted?
Well, that's one of the scary things, and I think this is why, hopefully the police have leads or community members have leads about these different shootings. Typically when people attack a home like that, there's usually a period where somebody wants to retaliate. And something that we know from criminology research is that there's a really hot window where one party that's been injured or threatened with violence is likely to respond. We often forget about the victims in a lot of the public coverage of these events, and I think that that's something that, as a researcher, I'm always very empathetic towards people who are victims, because we don't understand how traumatizing this can be. And being a victim of a shooting like this can be very traumatic and very frightening, and I think that as a society we can also do better at supporting victims and helping them get back on their feet.
Okay, Assistant Professor Lee, our thanks to you. For City News, I'm Faiza Amin.